What's going on, everybody? Today we're going to be talking about Heretic, and this movie was a bit under the radar for me, especially because I feel like nowadays most movies are marketed so much that you somehow end up finding them in your dreams. And because of that, it was such a delight of an experience because so much of it was an unknown to me. Hell, I don't even think I saw the trailer before seeing the actual film. And this was certainly one of the stronger entries in horror for 2024, with the caveat being that if you're sensitive to religious themes, this is gonna be a heavy watch for sure. The story goes as we follow these two Mormon missionaries that go into this man's house per his request of finding out more information on their religion. The girls go inside and he starts trying to charm them with his warm demeanor through conversation. But they quickly realize that they are locked in this house and he's going to challenge their faith in the most extreme ways. And it really just boils down to him wanting to challenge their religion and all practices of faith with his theological background. He douses them with a plethora of questions regarding religion, specific aspects of origins of ideas, polygamy and monogamy's roles in religion, and even things like miracles and things of that nature. He essentially treats the entirety of the film kind of like a game where progression only really happens depending on whether if you still believe or if you don't believe anymore. Right off the bat, this film has a fantastic premise, it's got great performances, and in just this year alone, we got two solid entries in religious horror movies in Immaculate and The First Omen. But unlike those two movies, Heretic brought originality, something fresh and new. Like I said before, the premise is fantastic because it finally found something new to try with religion in the realm of horror. This movie had no direct connection with demonic beings or cults or anything remotely similar to that. This film is also brilliantly shot where even though Hugh Grant's character is talking to the two girls, it's shot in a way where it feels like you're in the room with him and you're the one having the conversation with him. The film is very dense in terms of dialogue, but with a premise like this, it kind of has to be, you know? The writing for the film is tight, and yeah, it may come off audacious, and some might even say it crosses the line at times, but it was so smartly written that it gets you to really think about the subject matter at play, and because of that, it's very interactive, if you will, regardless of if you're religious or not. Personally, I didn't think it was sacrilege. I myself am Catholic, and I never really felt that it was disrespectful to religion, but again, that's just me. Like, the challenges come from the antagonist of the movie, and for him to be an antagonist, he's gonna have to push the boundary for there to be a problem in the movie. He challenges things like nurture playing a role in faith, birth control's role in religion, and while brief, pseudo taboos like layouts are even presented towards the end, so his scope in that sense is pretty wide. But from the beginning of the movie, it's very clear that perspective is the key piece in this film. Everybody's perspective is different, and depending on what situation and moment you are in the movie, depending on their perspective is exactly how that character is going to act. And under those circumstances, my read on his ultimate view of things is that the pressures of fear played a huge role, and his subjective view on religion was heavily reliant on use of fear and lack of knowledge by overwhelming the other party with his knowledge and making them feel like they don't have another option but to agree with his view no matter how distorted it is. And those are the signs of a master manipulator that's very aware of his strengths. In terms of horror, I think that this film isn't scary in the traditional sense. It's got like one or two jump scares, but I feel like the real horror elements come from the atmosphere and the dread and suspense. There's so much tension anytime Rita's on screen because you fear for these two girls. And I love that you instantly have that fear even though you never see this man do anything sinister beforehand. Yeah, you feel it in your bones that this dude is dangerous. But on top of all that, the horror also comes from conversation through the dialogue. He's able to relay and communicate heavy subject matter and even come off insensitive while bringing in examples of contemporary pop culture references that share similar patterns and are delivered as comical but yet still unsettling. It's very refreshing, and it helps when you have a cast as strong as this one. Hugh Grant stole the show. He manipulates you constantly and disarms you so easily that you literally do question everything. It's his little mannerisms that he constantly smiles and seems like a nice guy, but literally from the first time you see him, you feel like something's off about this guy. I think he played a huge role in the fact that we got a horror movie that wasn't so reliant on constant jump scares or heavy needle drops to startle the audience. He provided the horror through suspense that was so palpable every time he showed up on screen. And while he never looked evil in the traditional sense, his jovial nature and constant smiling made it all the more unsettling. Sophie Thatcher and Chloe East were excellent surrogates and blended so well. I'm a little afraid that Chloe East is gonna get overlooked because Thatcher was, for the most part, the strong, final girl-esque character that we usually follow, while Chloe was more subdued and, for a lack of a better word, ill-prepared. And I mean, obviously Sophie Thatcher was fantastic. She was the more assertive, cautious, and what seemed like more in touch with her faith. She also seemed to be more of a fighter, and you could tell right away she was gonna be the one that gives Reed more trouble. But I really loved Chloe's performance because for the purposes of the film, she was much more suitable to fall into the traps by Reed. Hell, she was quick enough to choose the door that admitted she lost her faith after just a few moments with Reed. However, she grew in the movie and she learned how to use her wits and essentially rely on her faith as she grew towards the end of the film, and that's called character development. In general, they had a very good dynamic throughout the entirety of the movie. I also wasn't surprised that the film was as tightly written and well directed as it was because Scott Beck and Brian Woods had also written Quiet Place, which is obviously a beloved movie. One of my favorite and most fun shots in the movie is towards the end where there's like this overhead shot that very much was reminiscent of Hereditary, or Wes Anderson loves using this shot in his films. It's a really well done shot. And towards the beginning there was also another shot that I really liked, that it was them just going up the staircase where it wasn't an abstract figure where it was like blocked, and it was just a fun shot. I don't know, I really liked it. Really, I'd only say my complaints about this film are that the convenience of the girls not being able to hear when the gate under the table was lifted in a room where everything echoes. The fact that Reed was able to sneak up behind Paxton like he had dead silence on or something so that she wasn't able to hear him. And it felt a bit unclear towards the end what was his end game with Paxton. Like, it felt a bit fuzzy, and I think that's probably on purpose. It's up for your interpretation of what his next move was. But outside of that, I thought it was great. Even the ending, as ambiguous as it was very much in line with the theme of the movie. It's up for your interpretation what that butterfly meant. Ultimately, I love that this film is dark, but it's also very entertaining, and by the time the credits roll, it really leaves you thinking about it. I just love when a film is thought-provoking because it really challenges you to broaden your views on certain subject matter. But that's it for me. I'd appreciate a thumbs up, subscribe, and sincerely yours, Anthony.